Hey everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another deck featuring cards from the brand new set XY Flash Fire. We're trying out some new stuff, and this is just another new idea that may have some potential. I don't know, but let's try it out. So the idea here is to use the brand new Mega Evolution, Mega Kangaskhan EX. Now I am not a big fan of Mega Evolutions because when you Mega Evolve, your turn ends, and that is just such a terrible, terrible drawback to lose an entire turn. Oh my goodness. You would need something extremely powerful to justify sacrificing an entire turn. And with this deck, I think it actually makes sense. Alright, so Mega Kangaskhan, bear with me here, it has 230 HP. That makes it extremely difficult to knock out. And fighting weakness, that's not a type that's actually played very much. Sure, there's the occasional Landorus EX, that would be a big problem, but beyond that, we don't see too many fighting Pokemon being played right now. Because of that, it's very difficult to knock out Mega Kangaskhan EX in one hit. And if you can't do that, well, this deck will make sense. 230 HP, not even a Black Kyurem EX can use Black Ballista to knock this out. Not even a Genesect EX can use G-Booster to knock this out. 230 is safe from so many things. And in today's game of one-hit knockouts, that's actually pretty impressive. Alright, so we're going to get back to the whole strategy involving this. But first, we're going to look at the attack. Wham Bam Punch. Does 100 damage for 3 energy. Then you flip a coin till you get tails. You do 30 more for each heads. Now, it's not a very reliable attack. It's not a super powerful attack. It's no Evil Ball. It's no G-Booster. But Wham Bam Punch is going to knock out things in 2 hits pretty much every time. Now, you can get lucky sometimes and actually still knock things out in 1 hit. I mean, 30 damage for each additional heads is actually quite a bit. Just think about this. If we get 2 heads on Wham Bam Punch and then have a muscle band attached as well, that's 180 damage. That is knocking out things in 1 hit. So we're going to run 1 Victini alongside Mega Kangaskhan EX for Victory Star so we can reflip, get 2 shots to get 2 heads on things, and Wham Bam Punch for some big damage. Alright, so let's get to the overall strategy of the deck. It's not a new strategy by any means, just one that may be more effective now that we have Mega Kangaskhan EX. It's going to revolve around Aromatisse. We have Fairy Transfer, we can move our energy around. Everybody should know what this does at this point. It's been a very popular card. Just allows you to rearrange the fairy energy on your field. Now, since Mega Kangaskhan EX is so difficult to knock out, we can abuse Max Potion. So we have 3 Max Potion. Just allows us to heal all damage off a Pokemon. So hey, Mega Kangaskhan takes a hit, moves all the energy off, Max Potion. Now all of a sudden we have a full 230 HP Pokemon once again. And it's going to take forever for anybody to knock this thing out. Only a few things in the metagame do that, like Rayquaza EX. But hey, we know Rayquaza EX is out there. So to deal with that, we're going to run this guy Druddigon. He has the Attack Revenge. If your Pokemon got knocked out by damage by an opponent's attack on the previous turn, he does 90 for 2. That's going to knock out Rayquaza EX in 1 hit because of this nice dragon typing. So we can counter that Rayquaza EX with Druddigon. It is still painful that we have to lose a Mega Pokemon EX and then have to respond with this, but hey, it's better than just rolling over and losing, I suppose. We do just run 2 Kangaskhan EX and 2 Mega Kangaskhan EX because we don't really expect them to be knocked out. Now, for the rest of the deck, we have 2 Xerneas with Geomancy. This is just energy acceleration here. Just gets 2 extra fairy energy in play. It's not a bad Pokemon by any means. And we're just running fairy energy and 1 double colorless energy since we can just move the fairy energy around. We also run a line of Slurpuff, since Sweet Veil prevents special conditions if a Pokemon has a fairy energy on it, so this will stop things like Hypnotoxic Laser, which could potentially knock out Mega Kangaskhan EX. We can stop that right in its tracks. And we do have 1 Xerneas EX, as well as Breakthrough and X-Blast. Not very great attacks, honestly, but they get the job done. And then 1 Mewtwo EX. Yveltal EX could be a big problem for this deck, but it's going to take so much energy for an Evoltal EX to do 230 to a Mega Kangaskhan, and if it has a ton of energy, we can simply use X-Ball and knock it out. So there's your response to an Evoltal EX. There's a response to the Rayquaza EX. Those are the two things you're going to have to worry about the most when you're using Mega Kangaskhan EX. And then our last Pokemon is just Jirachi EX. We can Stellar Guidance for any supporter we want. This is just a nice card to have in your deck. Everything else is just going to be fairly simple and straightforward for a Fairy deck. We have 3 Fairy Garden. Gives our Pokemon no retreat cost if there's a Fairy Energy attached. Again, we have the Max Potion. We have 2 Level Ball to search out our Spritzy and Aromatisse in the Slurpuff line. And also Victini and Jirachi, so we can actually get a lot of stuff with Level Ball. And then 2 Ultra Ball to search out everything else. I'm also trying out 2 Pokemon Fan Club in this deck. Allows you to search for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them into your hand. So this is actually really neat in this kind of a deck where you're always kind of searching for that next Pokemon you need to respond with. Like, oh, I need a Victini, or I need a Druddigon, or I need a Mewtwo. Pokemon Fan Club is pretty nice. Or it can grab you 2 Spritzy at once if you're afraid one is going to get knocked out, get targeted down by a Pokemon Catcher or Lysander. Speaking of that, we do run a Lysander in this deck. This is just a card I'm trying to put into all my decks to see how good it is. So far it has been pretty strong, even though it does take up your supporter for the turn. 4 N, that's very standard. 4 Skyla, it's pretty simple as well. Get to search for any trainer card we want to. 3 Colress, this deck gets a very big bench a lot of the time, so Colress is really good. Only 2 Professor Juniper, because we don't like to discard a lot of these cards. Max Potion in particular, it's very devastating when you have to discard Max Potion, so instead of running the typical 4 Juniper, we're just going to run 2 in here, since it hurts so badly to discard our resources. We do have a couple Muscle Bands, again, to help out with Wham Bam Punch, and our ace spec for the deck is going to be Dowsing Machine. You get to discard 2 cards and then grab a trainer from your discard pile. And then we have 1 Startling Megaphone as well. This replaces Tool Scrapper, since it can just discard all of your opponent's tools. It's pretty good. So this is the Aromatisse Kangaskhan deck. I don't know, can a Mega Evolution actually be viable? It looks like there's a shot, I'm not really sure. But let's take a look at the deck in action. Mega Kangaskhan EX and Aromatisse. So it looks like I have won the flip, so of course I'm going to choose to go first. Going first is always pretty good. And I'm going to go start off with that Xerneas right there. I can't use Geomancy on the first turn, but that's alright. At least we get to take the first turn. Alright, so here I see a Lugia EX, so I know we're probably up against a Team Plasma deck. I'm trying to figure out what I'd like to do here. I don't think Colress is a good idea right here. I could bench a bunch of stuff, and then Colress for like 3 or 4 maybe. But I think the better option is just to Pokemon Fan Club, grab 2 basic Pokemon, and then be happy with that. So I'm going to grab a Kangaskhan EX and then a Spritzy. We'll just check to make sure there's no freak accident like both Mega Kangaskhan's prized or something. So we'll take a look through the deck, and wait a second. Have you... there's a Kangaskhan. Oh no! There actually are 2 Mega Kangaskhan prized. Oh no! Oh, that's just brutal. Alright, so obviously this destroys our entire strategy, but we'll try to figure out a way to win anyway. The entire point of the deck is to get Mega Kangaskhan, and they're both prized. Of course. Alright, well, 180 HP is still pretty tough for Lugia EX to hit. That's 4 Deoxys EX and a Muscle Band. It's not easy to do very quickly, so perhaps we'll be able to get a knockout at some point, and then after that, perhaps get the Mega Kangaskhan out of the prizes. And from there, Team Plasma decks really do struggle to do more than 180 damage. The only thing that can really do that is Snorlax, and a lot of people have stopped playing that card, so if we can manage to get Mega Kangaskhan in play, that'll probably be pretty good. We can probably afford to go down a couple prizes here and then make a comeback. That's just the strength of Max Potion and Mega Kangaskhan, and its gigantic HP. We do see a Team Plasma Ball for a Deoxys EX, and then I think a Muscle Band went on to the Thunderous EX. Going to see a Juniper there discarding the Prism Energy, and my opponent's going to try to get Lugia EX powered up as quickly as possible. We do see that DCE, a turn 2 Plasma Gale, is certainly a possibility. So that is something to be afraid of, but oh well, we'll just have to deal with it. Alrighty, so I have a level ball here. I'm going to just go ahead and I guess search for Aromatisse, and I'm going to look one more time. Are both Mega Kangaskhan really prized? Yeah, they are. Alright, so we're going to grab Aromatisse there. Get that into play. Go ahead and bench Drudagon. I might... I don't know if I really need Drudagon, but I do want to Colress for more cards here. Victini seems like an easy target. Not really sure. I could attach a Muscle Band before I play the Colress. I guess we can do that. Put it on Kangaskhan EX. Just looking for an energy here, and we got one. Just so I can use Geomancy. And then next turn we can actually attack with Kangaskhan EX, probably, using Kindred Kick. I think that's what it's called. So we'll go ahead and use Geomancy. Search for 2 Fairy Energy. Attach them to 2 of my Pokemon. So there we go. Just get one at a time. It's kind of an awkward process using this on Pokemon TCG Online, but that's alright. Just going to get the energy on to the Kangaskhan EX and then another one on to Drudagon. Doesn't matter since I can just Fairy Transfer them next turn anyway. So we see a Skyla that's probably going to go for a Colress Machine, and we'll probably see a Plasma Gale for a knockout. And what do you know? Skyla for Colress Machine. Plasma Energy, probably go on to Lugia. There it is. And yep, there's a Rainbow Energy as well. You can see Kangaskhan EX, Kindred Kick. Triple Draw is actually not a bad attack either, but Kindred Kick's what we're going to have to use here. And again, we're going to be trying to use that 180 HP Kangaskhan EX, since it's really difficult for Lugia EX to do that much damage. There's not even a Muscle Band on there right now. But we do see the Plasma Gale for the knockout. That's 2 prizes for my opponent. It's pretty annoying, but we can just play an N and disrupt my opponent, so that might not be the worst thing in the world. So Kangaskhan is just a big body right now. Gonna go with an N. Put my opponent down to 4 cards. I could put in a Fairy Garden here, but I think that would be a mistake. If my opponent wants to retreat, he'd be able to retreat for free then. So I'm going to hold off on playing the Fairy Garden. That's actually a pretty big deal. We're going to Fairy Transfer all the energy up to Kangaskhan EX. And then go for the Kindred Kick. Got a heads, so we won't even have to reflip on that one. Victory Star would allow us to do that, but I'll just take the 100 damage and be happy with that, knowing that we can finish off that Lugia on the next turn. So at this point, this seems pretty good. As long as Lugia doesn't knock out Kangaskhan in one hit, I should be okay. But I'm not really sure. We do see a switch into Thunderous EX, and a pass. So my opponent did not draw very well off of that N by any means. And alright, now I think I'm happy just putting Fairy Garden out there, because I want to start attaching more energy. I do have that DCE, we can use that. Put down a second Kangaskhan EX, I suppose. That might not be a bad idea. Just get 2 of these bad boys all powered up and ready to go. Trying to decide if I would like to attack with Xerneas EX this turn, break through, or just continue with the Kindred Kick. I think I'm happy just using Kindred Kick. And I'm just going to use the Kangaskhan EX that is the DCE on it. Just seems... I would rather... If I'm going to get knocked out, I'd rather lose the DC than 2 Fairy Energy that I can just move around. So we'll go ahead with the Kindred Kick. And got a heads once again. So we'll do 100 damage. Next turn we can definitely knock out Thunderous EX, since 70 is the base damage for Kindred Kick. Anyway, 100 plus 70 is 170. I think I learned how to do my math. So that should be a knockout. And we just see a Plasma Energy onto the Deoxys EX, and that will be the end of the turn. So we will get a knockout here. It's just, can we finally get that darn Mega Kangaskhan into play? Flip tails, that doesn't really matter, but I'll reflip for the heck of it. And we got Second Tails, Kindred Kick, 70 for the knockout. And alright, there we go. Mega Kangaskhan EX in hand and ready to go. Now, we will have to use a turn Mega Evolving, but it's definitely worth it just to have it survive. I'm perfectly fine with that. We do see a Helix Force for 140 damage. That's okay. Go ahead and Fairy Transfer away the Fairy Energy. And we can just Max Potion right here. Heal off that Kangaskhan EX. I might just put... I don't know. This is weird because if I like retreat to Xerneas EX and my opponent gets a couple more Deoxys and a Muscle Band, it would be a very easy knockout for Lugia EX. And that'd be 3 prizes, which I don't want to see. So I'm just going to leave this Kangaskhan EX active. We'll put energy all around the board, since we can just transfer them wherever we want. And here we go. Mega Evolution. Watch for this awesome animation that happens when you Mega Evolve. It's a very epic thing. You're going to see it. First, I'm in a Pokemon fan club, though. Just might as well play it. Grab Jirachi and Mewtwo, I suppose. Doesn't really matter. Having Jirachi might be good. And here we go. Mega Evolution. Yep. That's it. Turnover. Alright. So now it's my opponent's turn, but we have gotten the Mega Kangaskhan EX into play. And I am excited. Because we get to start Wham Bam Punching. And yep, there we go. Wham Bam Punch. And we'll start flipping some coins, man. That'll be awesome. We do see a Snorunt come down. We've seen Plasma decks start to add things to try to beat Pyroar. Looks like my opponent is using Frostlass to try to do that. I'm not sure if that'll be worth it or not. It seems like just a 1-1 evolution line will not do the trick against Pyroar, since if they knock out your 1-1 evolution line, well, you lose. Pyroar takes over. But I don't know. We see the Kangaskhan taking 50 from Helix Force, and it's time. Gonna retreat into Mega Kangaskhan. I think I might Ultra Ball away some stuff here, get rid of a Xerneas, and then perhaps an N as well, just to thin out some cards here. I could probably grab a Spritzy. Yeah, that's fine. And here we go. Are you ready for the Wham Bam Punch? Let's see how many heads we get. Just one? I really want to go for more. I think we're going to go for more. 130 doesn't seem to be very relevant. So I might as well try to get more damage. Alright, we end up with 100. That's alright. Like I said, getting 130 doesn't really make a difference, I don't think. The only way it would make a difference is if we're using Xerneas EX's Breakthrough and hit it twice, but it's whatever. I'm not too concerned about that. We see the retreat into Snorunt and a Muscle Band onto the Lugia EX. Well, go figure. Draw the Startling Megaphone to discard both Muscle Bands. And my opponent just seems to have drawn a whole lot of nothing after that N. But even if he did, you gotta think the Wham Bam Punch would be going to town anyway. This turn I will just use Breakthrough, and now I am kind of kicking myself for not doing that 30 damage to Deoxys EX. It shouldn't end up mattering too much, but well. We'll do 30 to... I might just do Virizion EX, since that'll make less flips for Wham Bam Punch to get a knockout. Get a Max Potion out of the prizes, that's pretty nice. Can heal off any damage that is done. Now Lugia EX comes out. I did just discard 2 Muscle Bands with Startling Megaphone, and then a third one was on a Thunderous EX earlier. So I'm really not expecting to be knocked out here. And if that's the case, even if I did get knocked out, I would just end my opponent down to 1 card. And then Mega Kangaskhan would probably clean up from there. We do see the Raid Knuckle for 50. And it's time to just go straight ahead with the Mega Kangaskhan EX. Here we go. I can Fairy Transfer some energy away from the Xerneas EX. I'm always kind of paranoid of having too much energy on one thing because of Lysander or Pokemon Catcher or something like that, but we're just going to go for the Wham Bam Punch. Alright, 2 heads. That's a knockout, folks. That's 160 damage. That Rainbow Energy hurting that Thunderous EX pretty badly. putting it in range for the Wham Bam. And alright, what does my opponent do now? I'm down to one prize with Mega Kangaskhan EX fully powered up. There's no way to knock this thing out in one hit, unless there's like a scramble switch onto a Snorlax. And if that's the case, we can simply just X-Blast with Xerneas EX for the win. So we're in a pretty darn good position, I would say. Rainbow Energy goes on to Deoxys EX, and we do see an end to one, but that doesn't really matter since we have... I mean, we can pretty much just play the board at this point. Draw a Dowsing Machine. I'm not going to bother playing the N. I'll just save a card to discard for Dowsing Machine next turn. And here we go, another Wham Bam Punch. And two heads once again. And Mega Kangaskhan puts the Wham Bam Punch on to Deoxys EX. So even though we had two Mega Kangaskhan prize here, it gives us 11 tokens for the victory. I think that's because it was my first game of the day. But, yeah. Who knows? Aromatisse, Mega Kangaskhan, 230 HP, and Wham Bam Punch are pretty buff. I am going to see how many times I can say Wham Bam Punch, because it's really one of my favorite things to say right now. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.